This is the Art of Network Engineering podcast. In this podcast, we'll explore tools, technologies, and talented people. We aim to bring you information that will expand your skill sets and toolbox and share the stories of fellow network engineers.
It was a cold and rainy day in the city, and I was the only one out in the beat in the force. They told me this was a cold case, and that I was a rookie for chasing it. My missus reckons it was consuming me, changing me into a different person, eroding all that which I had been known for. I took a long swig from my cup of joe, bitter, but it did the job. Just like me, I guess. I knew I could find them. I knew that those drop packets were out there somewhere just waiting to be found. I swear this guy by the name of AJ was at the center of it all, but I just couldn't pin it on him yet. They called him Blinky No Times, but the reasoning behind that is another story for another time. He had a band of other thugs in his group too, equally hard to shake down. Drop Data Dan and IP Andy, he was the head of security. They call him the gatekeeper because it's up to him to decide who gets permitted and denied to their events. Oh, and the goofy one, Timmy Ross. Can't miss him from a mile away. Not sure that he really did anything, though. If the other guys were smart, they'd never tell old Timmy what was going on. Countless interviews with these goons, and for what? There was no quality of service. There were no logs. There sure as heck weren't any net flows to chase. Maybe the boys and my sweetie were right, but hey, this isn't a science, it's an art. The art. And that art is network engineering.
Been holding my laugh forever. Nice job, Tim.
Blinky
Sergeant
No
Tim.
Times.
Very nice.
LT Tim Ross from the Packet Police Department.
Packet police. I like that.
All right, I am AJ Murray at No Blinky Blinky. He is Dan at Howdy Packet. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
Howdy, AJ. You doing good?
I am doing well. Today was the
I'm
last
doing
day
good,
of. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you asked me. Let's do that again.
my brain went backwards there.
Dan, I'm glad you're doing well. I thought you asked me. I'm sorry about that. What's new in Dan's world?
I'm trying to build this thing. Got
Oh,
some
yeah.
parts coming in.
Ooh, look at
We're gonna
that.
have a new editing rig here soon.
PC build.
Sweet.
How many cores? Say it again.
16,
Oh my god. Hyper threaded.
32 threads. Yeah,
Max clock. What's the max clock? Tell me again.
I think it was 4.9.
It was
I wanna say.
4.9.
Yeah,
I don't know what this is
Talking
turning
about-
into, AJ.
I don't either. I didn't
It's
realize
going to
that.
be a beast of a machine. That's all.
yeah.
That will
very
be nice
excited.
for video editing for sure. 'Cause
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
have
you're
to
going to
leave it
edit
off for a
everything
long
from
time.
now on. Good job, Dan.
Hey, you know,
It's now your job.
I'll take that on. You know,
All right. Well, he is Andy at Andy Laptef and at permitipandy.com. How you doing, Andy?
Hi, I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. We had soccer practice tonight. Big deal.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, we were at the playground. We were at soccer. The 4-year-old gave zero poops about having to be in bed by 8:20 so I could be here on time. So I
They usually
apologize
don't.
for being.
They
I
usually
apologize to you guys and my guests, but they seem to know when Thursday night comes around because they're like, nah, nah, bro, not tonight, Dad.
don't. Not tonight.
All right.
And last but not least, we have Tim Bertino. Tim at Tim Bertino. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing well, AJ. I got to give credit where credit is due. That intro was written by River in the Discord. So I will
Whoa.
throw that out there. If anybody has any intro ideas, hit me up because my creative
All right.
wheels could use some help.
So the crack in the armor is showing now. You're finally running out of ideas and hiring writers.
Yep.
You made it a long time without help. So nicely done,
Hey,
Tim.
all good things come to an end, right?
It's okay to ask for help. That's the story there.
That is the premise of the show. Yep.
you've got Jordan saying he's on it. So Jordan's the idea man.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
perfect.
we need to hire him as like a permanent writer for us because he has some really
Yeah.
good ideas.
100%.
That might have to happen.
Yeah, all the zeros you want, Jordan.
Well, right. When you say higher, that somebody might think there's money tied to that. So it's a loose term, higher.
That's true. Very loose term right now. Very, very loose term.
Fame and fortune, Jordan.
We do have a guest this evening, but we will get to her in just a second. We got some wins to celebrate. Andy, can I get a go scream? All right, nice. Lots of winning this week. I'm very excited for all of these people. So Ray 6221 passed the Aruba Certified Mobility Professional Exam. Congratulations, Ray. Kaiser Clark, Staff Sergeant Clark, passed the CCNA. Congratulations, Kaiser.
Big one. Nice work.
Big one.
Good job.
Mikey got a big W with the JNCIS Enterprise. See the Juniper Network Mikey. Certified specialist, internetworking specialist in Enterprise. So congratulations.
Nice.
Awesome.
Michael Kutka, passed the AZ900s. Congratulations.
That's my boy right there. Good job.
JR Cortez 25 passed the JNCIA Junos. Congratulations. Another Juniper win.
Yes.
DJ Ninja NZ passed the Fortinet NSE 4. That's a big one. Congratulations.
Yeah, good deal.
Robin C. Our buddy Robin C. passed the CompTIA Pen Test Plus. And he did it while wearing some A1 merch.
Yeah, I saw that. His picture that he posted. That was awesome.
That was awesome. And big congratulations to Alfonso. They dropped in the winning channel earlier this week that they accepted a position as a field network engineer at an MSP, and this is their first network engineering job. Congratulations.
Nice, good job.
Awesome.
Everybody
excellent
in the winning channel. 2 new Patreons joined us this week, so congratulations. Or no, not congratulations. Congratulations to us. Thank you.
Good job, AJ. Good job, AJ.
Thank you to Andrew and Natasha for joining and supporting us at the Art of Network Engineering. We appreciate it so much.
Awesome. Appreciate the support, guys. Thank you.
May I?
Please. Love that sound. Hey, A1 fans, AJ here to remind you about NordVPN.com. NordVPN will help secure you wherever you go. I use NordVPN on all of my personal devices. Whenever I'm out and about, I just go into the NordVPN app, hit Quick Connect, and away I go. Nice and secure. Don't have to worry about prying eyes, anybody looking at my connection. If I choose to go work from a coffee shop locally, or even while I'm traveling, if I bring my personal devices, I will use NordVPN to help keep things safe and secure. I'm using NordVPN right now, and there's no degradation in my signal. Everything looks good when you guys watch us on the live streams. So I can't say enough good things about NordVPN. They have some great additional services included with their VPN product. They'll scour the dark web for your credentials and see if they've been involved in any sort of hacks or anything. And then if they have, they'll let you know, and you can go change your passwords and do whatever you need to do to help keep yourself safe and secure. They also have a mode that will block any websites or ads known to possess malware, and they just have general ad blocking anyway, because who wants ads? As I record an ad. Anyway, if you want NordVPN, and you do, go to nordvpn.com/TAONE for the Art of Network Engineering, and you can get a really great deal, 73% off 2 years plus 4 months free. So again, that's 73% off 2 years plus 4 months free of NordVPN. If you forget that URL, just go to nordvpn.com. At checkout, you can use the promo code TAONE for the Art of Network Engineering, and we appreciate your support as well as NordVPN's support of the Art of Network Engineering podcast. Now back to the show. All right, I am super excited for our guest this evening. You probably know her on Twitter as Tracket Pacer. Please welcome Lexie. Thank you so much for joining us, Lexie.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I am super, super stoked to be here. This is wild.
Yes.
I still can't believe you wanted me on here, but I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your time, and we really appreciate having you on the show. So let's start it off. What do you do? Where do you work? And you can share as much or as little detail about either of those as you care.
Sure. Yeah. I work as a network engineer at a large cloud service provider. And I study in my free time, just trying to get through it. I'm working on my CCMP right now, halfway done. So
Nice.
excited to have that horrible experience behind me.
I should say you
just
study,
kidding. Why-
you study
joking.
publicly as well.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That is why I study publicly. I'm terrible at studying, so I'm just trudging through it, trying to get my first attempt at the NRC test done by the end of this year. We'll see if I can actually pass it the first try.
Now, have you taken your Encore yet?
Yeah, I took Encore last year and somehow miraculously passed that.
Nice.
Nice.
It kicked my ass.
Nice.
But yeah.
Were you
Yeah.
able to pass it in one attempt or two attempts?
Yes. That's the miraculous part. Yeah.
Or... one attempt. Okay.
Yeah. I
Nice.
was,
No
but
pressure,
it was a tough test.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how did you study for Encore? Because
Oof.
someone on this panel that's not going to name themselves has been studying for their CCMP for about 7 years. So when you're beating yourself up that it's going to take you a year, I'm like, So how does someone who passed Encore as quickly as you, what was your study strategy? Was it just like OCG
gosh.
videos and that's it?
Yeah, so it was a lot of stuff. It was a multi-pronged approach, right? Like I always start with the OCG because for me, at least, it's a good foundational bit of knowledge. It doesn't have everything that's going to be in the test, as I've learned the hard way. It's not the total the Bible of the test necessarily, but it is a really, really good foundation to lay. So I start with getting through the OCG, which for me can take anywhere from 3 months to 12 months, depending on how fast I'm doing things and how motivated I am. So I'll start with that. While I'm doing it a little bit, I'll watch some videos if some things don't make sense to me, or if I find some typos in the book, which sometimes happen, bothers
Do you
me.
take notes?
I do
In a
take
Cisco
notes.
press
Yeah.
book?
I
What?
know. It's crazy. They have some typos in there. So I'll look at white papers in between a little bit. I'll watch some videos. But mostly I just try to get through the OCG first. Once I'm done with the OCG, with Encore, I was struggling towards the end of the OCG. And so I ended up, I took out a subscription to CBT Nuggets, which I do, I like CBT Nuggets a lot because they'll, explain, or any service where they're explaining these concepts to you in a video format, and it's a little bit more simplified and less of that dry text that's in the book, right? So I combined that knowledge with reinforcement from videos. Started taking, I take boson practice tests. Once I feel like I'm a little bit confident in the material, I like to just take myself down 5 pegs and just make myself feel like shit for a little while for not knowing the material well enough. Boson is great for that. But it gives me a good starting, and that is a good thing, right? It gives me a great starting point for, okay, these are my weaknesses. I need to work on these. And then I go back and look in detail at each specific thing that I might, that I feel like I didn't get with the practice test, that I don't understand. And I just drill down. And as that test date approaches, as I'm feeling a little more confident and my tests, practice tests are doing better a little bit, I then think about okay, rote memorization, flashcards, port numbers, things like that. And then I'll use a little bit of Reddit as well. Some people who, will post their experiences, general experience with the test, hey, there's some of this stuff wasn't in the OCG. Focus on, this general area, right, is not in the OCG, but, look at this part of that Cisco test outline and make sure that. I will take pointers from them. It's a combination of a lot of things.
Did
So
you
that's how I
study
did
publicly
Encore.
for Encore?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it was pretty sporadic, but it was like early 2020 when I started doing that. And it was not as like, I don't know if I'd call my streaming streamlined now, but it was a lot more sporadic and a lot like, I don't know, just me talking at nothing and not being interesting.
So what would you say it was start to finish from when you started studying to when you passed the test?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I think I started studying seriously for Encore in March 2020.
Okay.
It took me a whole month to convince myself just to like start February to March, but
It's the hardest
March
part,
20,
right?
March 2020 until I passed it in September 2020.
Oh, good for
So-
you.
Wow,
That's
6
incredible.
months.
Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you.
So
I was feeling
I
pretty
wanna-
bad about it, to be honest. It takes some people like 3 months to pass it, but we're all
Oh,
different.
geez. That's nothing to feel bad about at
Yeah.
all. I want to go
Yeah.
back to your use of the boson. So excellent use of the boson. I feel like a lot of people that I talk to, they for some reason wait to start using the boson until they feel like they've gotten to the end of their study journey, but just before they go take the exam. And I think that, the way you explained how you use it is get it up front, get it early, figure out where you're at in your Encore journey. That way, like, yeah, sure, it feels like shit, it knocks you down a peg, but it lets you know, like, here's my knowledge gap, here's my focus areas, here's what I have to learn to get to the end, right? To be prepared to pass. So I love your explanation on how you use that as a tool and not just like an end game, right?
And that's some
Thank you.
good science-based stuff too, right? Like Peter Brown from Make It Stick was telling us, test yourself early, like even before you read the content, because it'll actually
Oh,
allow your
wow.
brain to recognize it later. Like, oh, that's what they were looking for. And it kind of creates this stickiness. So I just jumped back into Encore recently and I took my first boson practice test this past week. I'm not going to tell you the score, but me
How'd
have
that
lots
feel?
of work to do. Well, it was awful. Like
That's the point.
Yeah.
It should feel awful. If it doesn't feel awful, you're not doing it right. Thanks,
Right.
Boson.
so good. I'm doing it right.
Thanks, Boson. Is that their catchphrase?
All right.
Yeah,
So Lexie, I wanna go back. So what got you into networking as a focus?
Oh boy. I got into this field like later in life. I did not most of my life. I didn't know how computers worked or that networking was even a thing. It took a really long journey from like, I have a degree in English literature, so I
Nice.
started flailing
So
around
please don't
after
read my blog
college.
site, please.
If you ever want someone to proofread, I am a stickler
all
for
right.
like grammar, spelling, anything.
Excellent.
Yeah, but
Keep that in mind.
yeah, no, I for a long time I just didn't think that I was cut out for anything in tech, so I never even considered it. I also, like I said, I didn't know that networking was a thing until I was
Sure.
like 28 years old, and then what happened was I had a pretty unfulfilling career. I just sort of fell into it. I was working my last job that I held before working as a network engineer was I worked for a nonprofit, which was noble work. Don't get me wrong. It was a legal aid nonprofit, and I was organizing these. We called them legal clinics. So we helped low income individuals and families access free or heavily discounted legal services by way of, we had these attorney volunteers who would volunteer their time to take on cases pro bono. In the legal clinics, specifically in the legal clinics that I organized, we would have the attorneys sit down in blocks of 15 minutes with people and give them, listen to their issue and give them legal advice for free, just right there on the spot really quickly. So I
That
was in
sounds
charge
like it
of
would
all
be
of that.
fulfilling. Like, was that a fulfilling job? Like,
Yeah, fulfilling is a word that describes it, but there's a lot of other words as well. Unfortunately, when
Yeah.
you're working, it was a small nonprofit, very small, and so we didn't have a lot of funding. The pay wasn't great, to be honest, and that's not all
Yeah.
I'm looking for in a job. But I was living in Austin, Texas at the time, and Austin's an amazing city, but it's become a pretty high cost of living area recently. So while that transition was happening for Austin, as it became more and more expensive, I was, being paid a very low nonprofit salary, and I just, in the end, I couldn't take care of myself. I also, some of the legal issues that I was hearing day in and day out were really rough to hear.
Yeah,
we only did
imagine.
civil legal stuff, right? So didn't hear criminal cases, but you go some days when I ran the legal clinics, it would be like a 13-hour day, 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
And, I was doing like translation Spanish to English and back and forth for clients and attorneys who needed that. And that was mentally draining. And then if you have to sit there for a 13-hour day, I would set up, organize, run, and translate during these legal clinics. It was exhausting. And some of the cases were just like, we had victims of human trafficking come in and not know what to do, right? So to sit there and listen to those stories. And look, I'm a privileged piece of shit, right? Like I have not had a difficult life. So for me to, and I don't want to, I don't want to make light of any of these stories. Like they're people's stories. They're not mine. I don't own them, but it did something for me to take in people's, trauma in this way through these legal clinics. And it was really rough to hear these stories over and over and over again. Eventually I found that I was just exhausted on like every level, physically, mentally, emotionally. So at one point, and on top of all that, like I could barely buy groceries.
That's what I was going to say. To do all that and be broke, like it's one thing to be, tortured emotionally like that, but no, you're making a difference in the world. But then to not be able to pay your bills after all that hard work and emotional drain sucks, right?
Yeah, and on top of all of it, for every like one person that you can help in a nonprofit, there's like 15 that you can't help. And they're desperate for help, so they're going to ask over and over again, and it's very difficult. You can't save everybody, and that's one of the hardest lessons I had to learn doing that, working in that position. I grew up a lot. I worked for that nonprofit for 3 years. I grew up a lot doing that, which was good for me, but it was a really rough time. And so finally at one point, I was so miserable that like I set a reminder in my calendar, on my phone, and I was like, look, this is really hard to admit to yourself when you're like, I was 27-ish at the time. It's really hard to admit to yourself that like for, all this time, I've had a career that I really am not that passionate about. I don't like it. I want to start over. Like that's a really difficult decision to make. So I set a reminder in my calendar. It's like in 3 months, if I'm still miserable, I have to quit. I have to leave. So 3 months went by. I was still miserable. And so I, like the privileged piece of shit I am, I called my parents.
Well, hang on. I think it's good to set boundaries, even if it's with yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, setting boundaries is healthy. I mean, it sets you on the path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you stuck to it. It would have been easy to have that alarm go off and go,
another 6 months.
I mean, to change your life is the hardest thing, right? And like that's basically what you were getting to is like, I need to change here, and that's hard and scary. And so, good on you for taking that step.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was, but I called my parents and I was like, I've made mistakes. Can you help me? Can I?
There's no
need to
shame
reset
in
my
that.
life. No, I know.
Back
And
in
you know
with my
what?
dad for 6 months in my 30s. Yeah. I mean, we've all had those. A lot of people have had those periods in their life where like, wait, this all sucks. I need to like reevaluate and make different decisions.
I was so ashamed of it for a while.
Okay.
Until as I've started talking about it in recent years, like most people I know have had to live with their parents in their like late 20s, 30s, 40. People do it all the time. So yeah, I recognize now there's no shame in it. I like to joke about it only, but no, there's nothing wrong with it. I just felt really bad about myself for doing it at the time.
Sure.
Because it felt like a huge failure. That like I had gone through, 6-7 years of a career that I sort of fell into, but that was a career, and it wasn't working for me. So,
And in your defense,
luckily,
going through
yeah.
English literature, you never dreamed that you'd be in that kind of job, right? Where it was so difficult, and not everybody can do every job. Like I have my buddy's a cop, and he's a great cop because he's kind of a sociopath. Nothing bothers him. but we need those people, right? And the reason I say that is like my dad was a cop, and he's like me, he's sensitive and he feels everything. He's an empath, and he lasted about 10 years and got out because what, like you're saying, when you see all this difficult stuff every day, if you have the personality for that, to be able to keep it at a distance and not take it at home, great. And thank God for those people. It doesn't sound like you're the kind of person who can, you're absorbing that and it wears you down. And so, it's good you made that change. So you moved home. How'd that go?
Yeah. Well, luckily my parents are saints and amazing, and they were incredibly supportive. And I realized there are a lot of people who don't have that luxury in life. And so I'm thankful every day that they let me do that, because it really saved me in a lot of ways. So I moved back I'm from the Houston area. So I moved back with them. And in the time that it took me to quit my job and get things organized in Austin and then get moved back, I had a plan. I wanted to have some kind of vague plan, at least, to what am I going to do about this, because I need to reset my career essentially. So there's a really nice community college nearby my parents' place, and I thought I'd just take a look. Maybe I'll get an associate's degree in something that I've never looked at before and see how I like it. So, my first thought was, well, of course I need to be able to support myself. So I'm, going to be looking at careers that probably, pay a little bit better than the one I've been in, which is many careers, admittedly. So I looked at things in finance and, political science and all sorts of stuff. And then of course, tech stuff in general was one of those things. But of course, throughout my life, I never really thought that I was up to scratch for doing any of that stuff.
And why is that? You said that earlier too. And I had a similar feeling most of my younger life, which is why I want to point it out. Why did you feel, you said earlier you felt you weren't cut out for tech?
So when I was a kid, I was exposed to not a whole lot of tech stuff, but I had a lot of friends who were building their PCs with their dads, and I'd go to LAN parties and things, and I've always liked playing computer games, for example, right? And so I've sort of been in that arena, but it's very different liking to use technology and actually liking to learn about it and how it works under the hood and all that. So all of my friends who started at an early age building PCs, learning Linux, doing all that kind of stuff, programming, they all, at this point in my life when I was reassessing my career and all throughout my 20s, it felt to me because I hadn't started really early, I was never going to catch up. And I didn't have anybody ever approach me and be like, hey, you ever thought about building that PC you like to play games on? Let's build you a PC. Or hey, did you know that networking is a thing? This is how it works. Or you ever thought about programming? It just didn't seem very accessible to me. And I felt, as a woman in the, within the last 5-10 years, I have passively absorbed, there's been a lot of effort to get women and girls interested in coding specifically. Right. And so I'd passively absorbed some of that over the years, but I just always assumed that because I didn't start early on it, I wouldn't be able to have a career in it. So that changed when I had to admit to myself that I was starting over completely and there's nothing I could do about it. When I took away that well, I've got a good enough career now, so I'll just stick with that. Once I took away that sort of weird, miserable safety net, the world opened up strangely.
So that preconceived notion that I've started too late and I haven't been brought up on it kind of was limiting a little bit, I guess, right?
Yeah. And it's still, it still was an obstacle for me throughout all of this. And it still kind of is in my mind, I'm going to admit. But once I had to admit to myself, I am starting over, can't do anything about it, this is just how it is, then I didn't have a reason to put it off starting over. So if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So I when I moved back, I enrolled in, what I ended up doing was, like I said, I sort of passively absorbed all this like all these efforts to like get women and girls into coding. I was like, well, maybe I'll be a programmer. Let's see how it goes. But I want to learn some general stuff because I didn't know anything about how anything. I can't stress this enough. I didn't know anything. Okay. So I enrolled in, I forget what the exact like name of the degree was, but it's like an associate's degree for like general IT studies, right? At that community college. And there were 3 courses that I had to take as like introductory requirements for that. It was Introduction to Computers, which was really cute. It was like, hey, here's what a computer is, and here's how to use Excel and Word, and here's pretty ways you can make like tables do stuff. And then the second introduction class was Intro to Programming, which was a great class. The instructor was wonderful. She was awesome. We learned C++. Great. And then the third class that I had to take around the same time was Introduction to Networks. And I had no idea what that was, but it was a requirement. So I was just going to do it. So that turned out to be the class that it changed my life. My instructor was a woman who was actually around my age and had a very similar story to me. She had a degree in something that wasn't, STEM related in any way. And she had started a little bit later in tech. And she was, working for a big brand name company. And she was just an awesome instructor. And seeing her up there, like, I know this is probably a bit of a cliche at this point, but, representation is important. And like, being taught in a class by someone who was close to my age, also a woman, like spoke like me, thought like me, was so like, it made such a huge impression on me. Like, hell yeah, I can do this. All right, cool. Let's do it. So when I finally took that class and learned like, oh my God, this is how the internet works. It was like, my mind was just blown. Yeah, nice. Just absolutely blown. I haven't lost that feeling totally still. Like, it still blows my mind that stuff works this way. And that this is like, BGP is like what keeps the internet together. Like, this is how computers think. This is what an IP address means. I never knew, I never even thought about it. So all of it, just every time I learn something new, it blows my mind.
So let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
So do you think you were saying, like having a woman teacher, do you think that inspired you to start doing some of the stuff that you've been doing, where you're doing like these little video clips of you explaining something, right? Or
absolutely.
Like you brought up BGP. I think you made a video the other day talking about I'm pretty positive it was you that had a video about BGP that was basically saying how was it Russia or something like that? They were injecting routes.
That was not me. That was She Networks, but it was a
Networks.
Great video.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. You know what? It's fine because she's awesome. She's a huge platform.
I started over again, AJ.
No.
Wait,
dude,
hang on.
totally
I
cool.
gotta step in here.
That's a great video.
From the chat, you got the quickest turnaround, Dan. Chris Denny said, "Great question, Dan," and within 2 seconds, went from "great question" to "damn it, Dan."
And
so you
ruined
caps.
It. All caps too.
Great question, Dan. Damn it, Dan. You ruined it.
Yeah. Jordan thinks we need to restart the whole episode.
I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
It's totally cool. It's seriously not offended at all. She's awesome, and I after finding her videos, like, it was just more reinforcement. Like, this is awesome. We need more ladies doing this. And that's a great video. Actually, I was really proud of myself because watching that video, I was like, yes, I knew about that. I read about it. I already knew. I'm something. I'm a professional. No, I think it's so important. And it's not the main motivation, I'll admit, behind like my videos, because literally the main motivation why I stream is because I cannot sit still alone without somebody or something holding me accountable. I cannot... every 3 to 5 minutes when I'm just reading on my own, I get up and take like a 20-minute break doing some other bullshit, and it's like, just focus. So if I'm streaming, it keeps me accountable. I can't just get up in the middle of a stream. People are watching.
Wait, you have
and
that
interacting.
too?
Yeah.
yeah, really. I resonate so
So
much.
you're speaking to me here.
Like,
Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Hey,
so walk us through that.
Yeah.
What does a stream look like? You start it and you start studying. You study out loud. How long do you?
It's just
does a
me
session
bullshitting
go,
the
or
whole
does it
time.
vary?
Like it's just bullshit. No, it really is though. I mean, so I've structured it a little bit better now, just slightly, because now I have like the actual book, what I'm reading and some of the diagrams that I'm looking at right there in the stream, so you can sort of see it. But yeah, I literally, this is how I go through the OCG, which I'll admit is not like how you should only study for the test and only this way, but this is how I get my foundational knowledge down, is just getting through the OCG. So I literally just start from chapter 1, go all the way through it, finish that thing. And so the stream is me a lot of the time just reading word for word the text in the book. And then I'll sort of like talk to myself.
You know? Flavor it up though. Like it's
I mean, I bitch about like, fucking Cisco Press and all your typos. God damn it.
Yeah. I love that you get annoyed at the content, like, because, it's so refreshing to me. I'm annoyed every time I open a Cisco Press book. And when I say that to people, it's like I get looked at with this irreverence. How dare you? It's Cisco Press. This is the best thing in the world. And I'm like, this is a torture device. Like, what are you talking about? So I love that you're on there and you're just so like, like even like simple stuff. Like, would you people put the drawing on the same page? Yes. Why are you going to like,
that's what I was going to say. It drives me absolutely insane. My biggest pet peeve. I'm sorry, Cisco Press. Thanks for making your books. I do like them. But what drives me crazy is like you'll have like a diagram. So you'll have like the explanation for a diagram, right? And it's on the bottom of one page. And then the diagram's on the next page. So you've got this whole big paragraph about like figure 19-23 is, like a DMVPN tunnel between R31 and R11. And here's all this like detailed explanation about what's going on. And I can't fucking see it because it's on the next page. God damn it. Let me, flip. Yep. Line break, please, like page break right there. Or like they'll have like output examples from like in the CLI and it's cut off. Stop it. I don't want to look at half of a routing table. Show me the whole thing. Like I can't. Are you kidding me? Anyway, that's the kind of stuff I whine about.
It's so good. Like you'll start a stream like, hello, welcome to the most boring thing ever put on the internet. I mean, that's how you start. And it, so I mean, that stuff cracks me up. And then you're pissed off at the material, which is just great. And then you're like yelling at people that are being stupid with you. I mean, it's very entertaining. I've been studying this stuff for a little over a decade, and I haven't seen content like this. So it's part of why I've watched all of your streams.
Just like
well, it's just so honest and funny, and
I'm
like
glad.
It's really good. So and the fact that, like, to circle back to what you were saying earlier, that college professor and how she really made it like, oh, I can do this too. I feel a lot of the same ways as you do, which might sound weird as like this white guy. Like, well, of course you don't, but I've always felt like I started too late. Like I became a cable guy at like 34, like,
really,
with a college degree, Bachelor of Communications, useless. I mean, I can relate to, well, right.
Yes,
I can relate
the humanities. Yes.
I can relate to a lot of your story. And then the fact that you found her and she made it accessible, like, oh, because if she can do it, I can do it. And now that it's not your primary focus, but because you're now doing that for maybe other young women who maybe, you're going to, if you're not already, you're probably influencing people in the same way that professor did to you. So
I hope so.
I really enjoy your stuff. One request I have is, can we please get off the NVPN? I've had
it. Good news, buddy. I finished that today. It is over.
God.
It is over.
I can't do any more DMVPN with you.
I think it's the chapter I spent the longest on. I don't know why.
There's a lot. Well, it's like 6 protocols rolled into one, and it's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's a lot
and
of
like
stuff.
look, Cisco Press just like word stuff a little better. Okay. But anyway,
so one thing that I'm hearing is we need to have a Tracket Pacer version of the OCG, and that would be a lot more colorful and I'd probably be excited to actually read that book.
Here's my prediction. I don't know what your plans are, but here's my plans for you, that you're going to be a CBT Nuggets instructor someday.
Oh my gosh. The only one that cusses, all the time.
CBT at night.
Oh man. Yeah, I would love to be an instructor one day. I don't feel like I know material nearly well enough to do that right now. And I probably would need to get a CCIE, which,
But hang on, that's what I've found is, I know it sounds backwards, but that's one of the best ways to learn the material. I think is to get a base and then you start teaching it. I mean, I teach it to myself until it gets weird that I'm talking to myself all the time.
That's what I do on stream.
Yeah, right.
That's part of what it is. Like, you explaining it out loud, talking to yourself. That's a lot of what I'm doing.
If I can make myself understand it, I can make anybody understand it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You definitely need to do that though. You need to make like a Tracket Pacers.
I'll make my own audiobook version.
Yeah. we need
Cisco won't have a problem with that at all. Yeah.
So you're still living at home at this point, right? And your mind is blown by this networking class, and this professor is like just amazing and opens up, the world for you. So what happens there? You're still living at home. Oh my gosh, intro to networking is amazing. Where do you go? How do you get from there to here? Like, what happens next?
Oh, so so the course I was taking ended up being like a Cisco NetAcad course. And the instructor that I was with, she was going to teach, I kicked ass. Okay. So I was really good in those courses. And so I moved over to the second one. So there's the 4 Cisco NetAcad courses, basically. At least back then, this was before they did the revamp in 2020, by the way. So it was kind of like the first 2 NetAcad courses were ICND1 material, and the second 2 were ICND2 material. So I moved on to that second course with her. And got through that. And then after that second course, unfortunately, the rest of my class, I think, failed out. And there were only like 3 of us that were able to continue on. And so it wasn't enough for her to actually teach that 3rd or 4th course, unfortunately. Yeah, I was really sad about that. Yeah.
Was this a CCNA? Because I went through NetAcad for my CCNA. So is that what you're talking about? You were going through the... Okay. That program? Yeah, that was the program. So I basically got through ICND1 material. It was just all Everybody
subnetting.
Put it on subnetting. Was that the one with the labs and what did you think about NetAcad? I loved it. It changed my life. I liked it a lot. It was not enough to pass the test on my own. Correct. I found. Yeah, I How many times did you fail?
OCG. I didn't actually fail it the first time, but I'm sorry.
You're killing me.
No, I've been miraculously, well, it's going to change. Look, I'm going to take the NRC in November and I'm going to fail it. Anyway.
So good for you. You passed the first time.
You passed the Encore, which is like the mountain, right?
Is it? I mean, man, there's not even labbing on. I'm worried about an RC personally, but
it's
that's
intense.
Just because I don't have a lab
intense.
going on.
There's a lot of stuff.
With all your
you don't have a lab?
Encore was a huge challenge.
Wait a minute, you don't have a lab?
I'll talk about labbing in a minute. I know. I listened to your last episode. I know how you feel. Don't worry.
She's like, hold on. She's like, I'm getting there.
We gotta get you a lab.
I have lab access. I don't have my own lab, and I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, labbing is part of my study routine. Don't worry.
So how did you finish your studying if the class fell apart? And
So I got through the material of that first ICND1 stuff, and then I started on ICND2. I had to buy the OCG and just get through the rest of it that way. And that's when I developed my study habits for certifications. Started with the OCG. I read all the way through that one. And then through recommendations online, like Reddit has some great, R networking, R CCNA, they have a lot of recommendations. One of those things was Boson and CBT Nuggets. And so I ended up using a lot of free YouTube videos and CBT Nuggets. And eventually I really and truly believe I would not have passed the CCNA ultimately if I hadn't taken the Boson practice test. They kicked my ass.
Was Reddit great. Your first community related to networking? Is that how you got plugged in?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. It was the only place that I could like I had no feel for how many people were out there doing networking or what the community was like at all. So Reddit is, up until really recently, actually was the only place that I was really getting any information from.
And you plugged into that community while you were self-studying for the CCNA, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so they have recommendations on the CCNA subreddit and also CCNP now too, on like, how to study for these tests, recommended stuff, things like that. So I went with those recommendations and they worked out really, really well.
Can you
so I
briefly
passed
talk
that
about
test.
the impact the community had on you? And I'm asking because when I studied for my CCNA, the community either didn't exist or I just had no idea, because I was a cable guy doing this, and my whole circle around me said I'm wasting my time, I'm never going to get a job. And that's part of why I like to contribute to stuff like this, because I want to let people know that what it did for me, right? Because I didn't have the support community that has become such a big thing in my life now. So was it a big impact for you when you were studying at the time?
Wow. I can't believe they said you're wasting your time.
Every single one of them. They're all still there, by the way,
bonkers.
climbing ladders, but
It was the
saltiness.
anti-community.
Well,
he's waiting for that.
People
By
get
the way.
stuck, right? And they see, these guys were there a long time, and they see somebody trying to, get up and out of something, and that's, I don't know, whatever that psychological thing is, but they just weren't excited for me. I mean, one or two were, but I'd say the majority of the shop was like, you're wasting your time. This is never gonna. But the community that you get, right? Like, whatever that is. But I if you could just touch on how the community helped you in those early days, because I think it's huge, at least for newcomers.
Yeah, I think we've sort of like been touching on this as I've talked about my streaming too. Is like, seeing somebody else struggle weirdly is so nice. Not because you revel in their misery or something, but just because like if you're struggling. For a long time, I had the impression that I was the only one struggling with this stuff. Before I got a job in networking, I was unemployed, living at my parents', studying 8 hours a day because I have attention problems, right? Okay, this is before streaming or anything. So I was like having a lot of problems just like concentrating. But
it's called Adderall.
And I've well, that's a whole other story, my man. But yeah,
that's a different podcast.
So I was having a lot of trouble, and you tend to start feeling like isolated and bad about yourself when you're just sort of struggling. You don't have anyone to talk to about it. And so I didn't know anybody else in networking. So finding out that stuff was on Reddit was like super helpful for me, because it was just sort of like, oh, a breath of fresh air. Like, people post their success stories with passing the tests and their failure stories. And, be like, well, I should have studied a little more on this general topic, and next time I'll know. Like that, seeing that attitude, seeing that other people were having, their own struggles helped me like put my own into perspective and stay focused on what I wanted, because other people are passing this on their second and third tries. It's okay. Like there's nothing wrong. Just keep trying is the point. And that really reinforced that point for me. And then of course, since finding, the Reddit community, and then, y'all's wonderful community, and then the tech Twitter and everybody around that's in network engineering or related fields has been so wonderful. It's I don't know. It just provides this amazing perspective that helps me, keep my experiences in perspective.
That normalizing failure is huge, right? Like it really helps that other people are struggling. I mean, this whole thing came about because AJ failed the CCNP so many times that he started a study group. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to tell, your story, AJ, but that's how this all started, right? You were just getting your ass handed to you, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I passed my CCNA, I passed my CCDA, and I passed the NP switch exam pretty quickly. I mean, I failed my CCNA a couple of times, but I passed ICND1, took ICND2, passed, did the CCDA, the switch, no problem. And then I started down route and T-shoot and all that. And between route, T-shoot, and Encore, I failed 10 Cisco exams in a row before I passed
10.
Encore. And along that path, I was always very honest. Like I posted on Twitter, like, hey, I've got my next Encore scheduled, I got my next route scheduled, whatever. And then I would, post the failure. And one day someone commented on one of the failures, just like, it's all about the journey. Like, it doesn't matter if you pass, it doesn't matter if you fail, it's all about the journey. And I was just like, holy shit, like he's right. and so, I just thought, like, there's so many of us out there studying, there's so many of us out there passing, so many people failing, like, why do it alone? And so created this, study group that I saw a bunch of other people on Twitter and other social media outlets that were like, we're all trying to tackle this thing, but we're all failing. Like, I don't know why I thought, like, let's take a bunch of people failing an exam and try to work together and maybe we'll, pass it. But because I didn't recruit anybody that had passed to teach us, it was just a bunch of us hanging out that had all failed. So, but through those conversations, we kind of decided, like, hey, this could be a fun podcast, and here we are. But yeah, I resonate with so much with what you're saying, because that's why I decided to, like, start blogging and get on Twitter, because I silently followed, so many people in networking, and all I saw were the CCIEs and the CCDEs and people posting about passing, and here I am failing. And it's just like, the struggle's real. Like, people got to know it.
Yeah.
And every exam I failed made me feel like an imposter and I didn't belong. Right. Like I failed my CCNA 3 times as I'm trying to break in. And every failure, I thought, those cable guys are right. Or like, whatever, we tend toward the negative, right? And I'm like, well, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I can't. But plugging into a community, I mean, we have a channel in our Discord that is just failures. It's called Failure Plaques. Mm-hmm. And it's just people posting all their failures. And again, to your point and AJ's point, it helps kind of normalize that. And it's part of the process. And then you learn about the science of, like, well, it's not failing, it's a learning process. And then you can go back to your weak areas. But how you frame it, right, can make all the difference between giving up and not thinking you're smart enough, or like, it must be an imposter, or, oh, well, everybody's failing. Because on social media, generally, it's that curated reality where everything's blissful, and not all that many people are going, I failed another exam.
Everyone has like 3 to 5 CCIEs on average. Like, okay, miss me with that. All right. I don't want to see that. I'm just kidding. No hate for that. But yeah, it's just, if that's all you're seeing, then it's just sort of like, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this?
So I don't mean to take us down the community rabbit hole, but it's been such a positive impact in my life, in this career, trajectory I'm on, that when you mentioned Reddit, I'm like, all right, that must be where she got plugged in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved your, the blog post about it and everything, when you share your story, and like, this community is a great, man, I got onto Twitter just because I saw that, there's a lot of people in tech, like in general, on Twitter and talking about it. And I didn't realize that this was a resource that could be utilized to learn. And it's just blown my mind how unbelievably supportive everybody is. And just how much knowledge is shared just from like this silly little like social media platform, or multiple platforms, I guess, but Twitter's my main one at the moment, right? So it just blows my mind how great
I was
it is.
introduced to you on Twitter. For whatever reason, you showed up in my feed, and your first tweet, I knew I liked you when your first tweet was, I'm supposed to be studying, but I'm wasting my time creating this Twitter account instead. I was like, holy shit, I like her. I don't know what's to come, but yeah, you're speaking my
language. I was just going to say that.
Right?
I remember
it only got better from there.
Yeah, anything and right, everything and anything to avoid studying. I'm like, yes, you're speaking my language. So anyway, it was good. Yep. So you plugged into the socials, you self-studied, and you went and took the test, I guess, right?
Yeah. So CCNA was a little bit more isolated for me, but Encore was not. And that was my first little dip into like streaming myself being an idiot and not understanding things. And somehow I passed that test, like it just, I don't know how I did it.
Are we talking about the CCNA or Encore?
Sorry, this was Encore.
Okay. So before we jump to Encore,
streaming.
Did you get your CCNA and get your networking job, or no? Like,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I never went into that. So I'm taking this CCNA course. I've gotten through the first 2 courses. And then of course, sadly, we had to, I had to stop going in person to classes, but I was still studying in the meantime. And towards the end of that year, this was the same year that I had like quit my job, moved back home, done all this stuff. I got a text from my instructor, and like at one point she's like, "Hey, the company I work for has an opening in the knock on the overnight shift. Are you interested?" And I was like, yes, I am. Definitely. Yeah.
That's the right answer.
Hell
right?
yeah. I was like, oh yeah. Cause I'd actually heard like, that when you're, at least this is what I got from Reddit, is like a lot of the time, you know, new people to networking might start out as like help desk, which can be like a mixed bag of experiences, or, you know, there was a lot of talk about how great it is to learn in a knock specifically for networking.
Knock is phenomenal.
Right. So
Yeah, we
so
got a
when
guy here who will agree with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Who?
My first network engineer job was in a knock.
It? That's fantastic.
Awesome. Great place to learn, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had heard great things. So I was like, when she said that, I was like, hell yeah, count me in. I don't care if it's overnights. I don't care what schedule it is. Just
did you have your CCNA?
I did not.
Okay.
So
not that you needed it, but like, was that a prereq to the job? Because we tell people get your CCNA and get a job. Yeah. Okay. Right. So you needed it.
No.
And, right.
I want to be clear. Like I think I spent all the luck in my entire life just getting this job. I had never had very much luck in my life, and this like was all of it at once coming at me. So what she said to me was, you know, I know you're still working on your CCNA. And, you know, I'm telling my employers that, like, I'm telling them that they know, but I think you have a great mind. I think how she put it was like, you have a great mind for network engineering. And cause I was that annoying person in class. Okay. Who like, was like, hey, I have a question, you know, like every single second I had a question about
active
something.
Learning. It's a wonderful thing.
And I could tell it was, and to like, bless her, she was so patient with me. She was so great. And she's, you know, to her credit, she would answer all my questions. And if she couldn't answer some of them, she'd be like, you know what? I don't know. I'll look it up and I'll get back to you. I mean, she set the tone for my learning so well. But anyway, she was like, you know, I think you have a great mind for network engineering. I've told them everything, like that you don't have a CCNA yet, but that you're working on it. You know, if you're interested, they want to interview you. So I was like, yes, absolutely. Luckily, I just got in at a point where this company, like they had started something new with a new team, and they really sort of just needed bodies and seats at that point in time. And I just got incredibly lucky that they were willing to take a chance on me without having any certifications or experience. It was just on her recommendation. So I just want to stress, like normally, like I was not qualified for that job, and I'm very grateful that they took a chance on me. So then I got my CCNA.
Did you have an idea? Did you have an idea of what you were getting into?
She might. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was that? Any idea what I was getting into?
Did you have an idea of what the job was, what you were getting into, or
a little bit? Like she explained it to me a little bit, but it was a new job, and so actually, as I, you know, I'm still there right today. I'm still working there, and she. What she told me was that it was like a new team. They're still sort of figuring stuff out, but they have an idea of like what's going on and what they're doing. And it turned into like it's a break fix role on like a hybrid cloud system. So specifically when stuff breaks, my team fixes it essentially.
Was there a technical portion to the interview? Did they ask any like CCNA questions? Okay.
Little bit. Yeah. Very basic CCNA questions. Right. But at one point, you know, it was, they gave me softballs, softballs. I got so lucky. I can't stress that enough. So I know that's not always going to be people's experience.
You took a lot of action in your life to get to that point. It's not like you were, at that, you know, lawyer job and that this job dropped out of the sky, right? Like you made some changes in your life and some decisions. You decided to take that class. You met this instructor. Like I would say you took a lot of action to get, what's the thing, like luck favors the prepared or whatever, like you did things to put yourself in that situation, you know. I wouldn't undermine that you just stumbled upon it, right? You did a lot to get there, and you've been there a couple years, right? Is that how long you've been?
Yeah, I've been working there for a little over 2.5 years now. Yeah.
Now, are you still in the knock?
So the position is is my title's a network engineer, and I do configurations and things like that in order to fix stuff. So it's sort of like, but we do monitoring, you know, we have a big monitoring board that we look at, and it's a very reactive role. We're 24/7. So, I'm still in the NOC, but like, it's more than just like a NOC monitoring job. We also like, it's like we're the first level of escalation as well, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's evolved over time, but yeah, I'm still there. We've still, our department has evolved over time, and I'm really like excited about the direction that we're going. Cause it's just, I've learned so much. It's
and nights are generally
network.
a good shift at a NOC, because during the day you can't touch anything, right? But at nighttime, that's when you can do some, fixing.
It's a party over there.
During the day, actually, it's so busy. We actually we're it's not preferable, I guess, to like do maintenances and such during the day, but we definitely we're global, so we definitely do maintenances just based on. We try to base it off of like when. Whatever region it's in, whatever location, like hopefully we do it when they're using the network less, but if something breaks, you gotta fix it. So our daytime is definitely busier as far as like there's more people using the network, so more things break.
And you're
so
going
I'm
to
actually,
days.
Yeah, finally, I get to move to days soon in a couple weeks. And
how has did you say you're working nights overnight?
Yeah, I've been working from 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. shifts for the past 2.5 years, which has been, it's rough.
Yeah,
it was fine for a while. During COVID, like when I wasn't going out anyway, like it wasn't too big of a deal. But at some point, it's like I'd like to sync up with my family and friends, and have like a personal life.
That's the hardest part of it. You're like awake when the world's sleeping and vice versa. And it's definitely, it can be an isolating, weird kind of thing.
Yeah, like on your days off, did you continue your night shift schedule? Like you stayed up during the night, or did you try to have like a normal schedule?
Briefly, I tried to have a normal schedule, but then I quickly found out like that is not, it messes with your head so much. Yeah, you get so tired, and then you have to transition back. So yeah, for most of these past 2.5 years, I've just been like keeping that same schedule, more or less.
So you're super stoked to go to days. It's going to be like normal life now.
I can't stress this enough. I'm so ready. I've been so ready. And they've been telling me for a long time, like, you're going to go. And I've just been waiting. And finally. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I'm a little terrified. Thank you very much.
Don't be
just
terrified.
on the phone more.
Welcome to the daylight.
I know. Well, I'm very excited. I'm excited for the sunshine and everything, and to like see like the sunset for the first time in a long time. But I mean, the daytime is so much busier on our network. So many different things happen, and there's more engineers awake asking questions, and
that's another skill set you can develop. I remember going from nights to days, and it was very different. The pace was much faster, and a lot of phone time. But you'll
can you make as many changes though? I think that's what you were just talking about there, right, Andy?
I mean, it depends on the place. We couldn't touch stuff during the day, but it sounds like, where Lexie is, maybe they're doing a little more.
It depends on what's going on. Yeah, I mean, if they're doing like a mass upgrade of a bunch of switches, for example, they tend to do that like in US nighttime. But again, like we're global. So if a customer in Tokyo like doesn't want us to touch their stuff during their business hours, like we would probably be doing a maintenance during US time in Tokyo. So it just depends on like where things are and customer preferences and all sorts of things. So yeah, we're real busy.
So remind me, was this a role change to go along with the shift change?
Oh yeah, I'm getting a promotion from network engineer 1 to network engineer 2.
There we go. There it is.
Hey-o.
Hold on.
Yeah, there you go.
I couldn't let you leave that out.
Wow.
Oh, thank you so much. That goat scream, it just makes it that much more satisfying.
So you get to go to days, you get a promotion, they might give you some more money. Oh my goodness, this is good.
That's awesome.
This is exciting.
I'm absolutely stoked. In addition to like the good things about day shift, naturally, we also, a lot of our best engineers are located in the U.S., and so they're obviously awake during U.S. hours. And I'm particularly excited to learn from them and connect with them more, because until I found this community, I hadn't connected with any network engineers outside of just like my little shifts at night. So for a long time, I was just like, I need to get on days just so I can talk to other engineers, who have been here for the longest amount of time, these US people. But I'm still very excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with you on that, because I work on a very small team. It's just 4 of us, right? And we have different levels of skills, I guess you could say. And I've been working there for 9 years now. And when I found this community, it was like the floodgates had opened, right? I can ask people who have done this stuff questions, right? Rather than just me just guessing at it and just battling my way through it.
So you had only like 3 other people to bounce things off of at work. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Being able to ask questions of more experienced engineers is so valuable.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, I can see that this is broken. So, but like, why did we do it this way? Like, as I'm returning it to the original state it was in, what was the design choice that led to it being that original state? I have so many questions like that. And the only people who can really answer that, unless you've got amazing documentation, which we do have some, but we haven't documented all our design choices, right? And it's so good to be able to go to the people who did that, or people who know people who did that, and ask them like, hey, what's up with this? So
when you get your NRC, what am I going to watch? Like, are you going to study something else?
CCIE. You going up to the CCIE?
Not CCIE. Don't. No. No.
But you're
not
already
doing that
halfway
to
there.
myself.
You already passed the written. You just need to go do the lab.
That is bonkers to me, that like that's all you need for the CCIE is just go take the lab after this. It's entered my mind, but oh my God. I work on a multi-vendor environment, and one thing I'm interested in is like getting a cert from another vendor, like Juniper. Really interested in like JNCIA stuff. There's just too many interests now to like just focus on the Cisco track for the time being, right? I never say never, but I'm super interested in Juniper stuff. I think it's just so cool. And also I've done a little bit of like scripting in Python recently.
I was just going to ask that. How much automation are you doing? Do you have to do?
I don't technically right now, we don't have to do anything, but we're one of the things I'm really grateful for on my team is that we've been given like an allotment of 4 hours a week to work on, we're calling it personal improvement time. So what I've decided to work on, it's amazing. And what I've decided to work on in my free time is Python scripting. It's been kind of like a hack job a little bit for me because I haven't taken any formal courses. It's literally just have a friend and a mentor at work, and he's been walking me through his experiences with Python automation and he's sort of the head of our automation effort. And so he's been walking me through that, and he's just been so patient and wonderful to learn from. So I'm working, all this year I've just been working on this one little script. So it's taken a while, but I'm learning a lot in the process. So hopefully that after my NP, I'll be able to focus more on stuff like that. That not only benefits me, but benefits our entire team, right? The more you automate stuff, the less you have to spend as a team on, little trivial things. We don't need everybody focusing on just like swapping out cables every day. Like we can automate that, right? Stuff like that.
So I can look forward to you yelling about Python syntax.
Yeah. You can look forward to me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said if you need resources, that we can recommend a great book for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Mastering Python or networking Python. God, I can't remember. Yeah, Eric Chusek.
Help us out, Eric.
It's on. I can't
this
see
one.
It's on my.
There
we
it is.
go. Mastering Python.
Andy's got it ready.
That's what I thought it was.
He's in our chat. He's
Nice.
a Patreon, and he wrote
He's
this
a Patreon,
pretty
big supporter of us
awesome
in the
book.
community. And it is genuinely an awesome
Sweet.
book. I've read it.
Thank you. I will definitely take note of that and grab a copy. Man. So yeah, I guess Andy, to answer your question, like you get to hear me yell about Python, maybe JNCIA stuff. Like
All right.
we'll
As long as you keep yelling about stuff, I'm good.
Yeah, Andy's tuning in.
awesome.
Yeah, I need,
His-
you know.
He's not satisfied if you're happy with it. He's only satisfied if
Well,
you're
look.
angry at it.
No, it's the
I'll
honesty.
never run out of.
It's the honesty is what I really appreciate.
I'm really
So wait,
happy to hear
maybe
that.
don't read Eric's book.
This piece of
Yeah, wait a second.
Yeah, well, I'll never run out of stuff to yell about or be angry about. Sometimes I run like just on spite. So, I'll be there.
You got to
I'll
keep
be
making
around.
the shit posts.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
you know what? Making
fan.
this has been so helpful. Thank you. Making this has been so helpful for me. I'm going to actually do probably a bunch of them once I'm finished with the OCG and going back and reviewing things. That's when I'm going to crank a bunch out, I'm pretty sure, because it's when I'm going back and reviewing stuff and trying to remember. EIGRP has it coming. Like that's going to be the next one. I'm just, I have to go back and review that bitch. I'm so annoyed. Because I got through OSPF and BGP and now I'm back in DMVPN and it's like, shit, I forgot everything, the timers, like everything about EIGRP. I'm already annoyed just talking about it. So
Yes.
it's going to happen.
Good.
So don't worry about that.
I don't know. The DMVPN one is pretty great.
I'm so glad you like that one because I actually thought I could have done that a little bit better. I did it like halfway through the chapter. I didn't even like finish the chapter before I did it because I was that
Nice.
frustrated with it. So
I
I didn't even include like phase 1 through 3 or whatever,
well,
it's not totally complete.
and then also so for me, it was like I was scrolling through Twitter, and I'm just like a zombie, right? And then I get to this one card and it says, "Okay, shitbirds, it's time to learn about DMVPN."
That's what I'm
And
talking about.
It's like the Office meme where he's like, I was like, okay, here we go. This is a change in pace.
Got your
got
attention
it up now,
huh?
Dan. Okay, shitbirds, it's time to learn about DMVPN. For when you're too lazy to configure a bunch of boring ass GRE tunnels. I mean, that's how it starts. Like, it's just so good. It's so good.
Well, I think that for the video, we should pop up like on the screen.
Yeah.
We'll pop it up so that way people can see it. And we were
Definitely.
talking
Good.
before the show, and Lexie's not posting those anywhere. So I have offered the Art of Network Engineering blog as a place for her to host those. I'd be happy to do that. So at some point,
Thank you so
I'll
much.
do the
Hold
show.
on.
Yeah.
English literature major, which means you wanted to be a writer. Do you write at all?
Oh, no.
Do you have a blog?
Oh boy. I've considered having a blog, but I this might be the imposter syndrome talking or something, but like I don't know that I have anything worthwhile to say.
Oh, come on!
What are you talking about? These gold nuggets that you're sharing?
Like I'm really good at just like, throwing a bunch of like, cuss words into like a fiery sort of macro and just like, yelling about something that I'm angry at. But as far as like, I feel like a blog post, it needs to be like well thought out and, thoughtful and mature, and like that is the opposite. I guess you could say the shit posts are well thought out, but that's like the opposite.
Maybe
of
the
what those
community
are.
needs less well thought out, less reverent,
Yeah.
Maybe
Mhm.
we need Tracket Pacer out there going, read my blog post, shitbirds.
I'm definitely on board with that.
Y'all
Right?
gonna learn today.
But one thing that is shocking is you're saying, English major or literature, and then the way that you say stuff on here, want to use verbs,
It's
hit them
not-
with that good shit.
it's so
and
good.
the way you spell stuff too, it's like, hold on a
It's so
second, I would
good.
not
Yeah.
have guessed that.
It's called I don't know if this is exactly the term that should be used formally, but I think of it as code switching, if you've ever heard that term. Not to get all
here we go.
academic on you.
Go
but
ahead, show
code
off.
switching is sort of it's not really even an English literature thing. Like I just find it really interesting. You know, code switching is sort of when you like you talk or communicate in a different way depending on your audience, basically, or the space that you're in, right?
Yeah.
And so I would not call this stuff like I don't mean to say that I'm disingenuous when I'm making this shit post. It's probably the most accurate representation of my brain and my thoughts at most times. Okay, but it's, you know, it's sort of like I like, depending on how I'm feeling and how the mood that I want, like the words to convey and all that, like I'll use the letter U instead of YOU, stuff, or YR instead of YOUR. Like I just, you know, and I'll cuss if I want to just convey that I'm really fucking angry at this concept, you know? So, you know, that's kind of how I like to think of it when I
and
do
here's a really grammatically correct sentence. These bitches is dynamic.
I love it.
It's so good.
Hang on.
She's
AJ,
talking about
you
tunnels,
gotta-
okay? GRE tunnels.
I don't care. AJ, you got to get a clip of that, because that's one of
Oh,
those
don't
things
worry.
that we
Don't
would
worry.
never hear Dan say.
Yeah.
Listen,
And now we got it.
we probably can't use this because it's not respectful, but I don't know if a good proposed title for the show is "These Bitches Be Dynamic." we you know, obviously we're not going to use the B word, right? But we got to get something fiery for the. I think we need a Tracket Pacer firebomb title. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Yeah,
but
feel free, take from the
It's
shit
not going to be.
posts.
It's not going to be lame.
At one point, I did an OSPF post and I compare OSPF to fascism. So, you know, there's plenty of material that you can use.
Oh my God.
So
That
it
might be the
sounds-
one I'm
it-
most proud of.
It's
So
so
it sounds
good.
like you're probably going to write the title of this episode.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to let
That was
the
my
expert do it.
recommendation. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you have. We just got to pick one awesome nugget that you've dropped. So this is what's, you know, not to say we got a wrap or anything, but like what's next for you? I mean, you're getting this promotion, you're on days. I mean, you're just getting started. Do you have any, you know, desire for a future state of Tracket Pacer, or are you just kind of going with the flow, getting promoted, kicking ass and seeing where it takes you?
Oh, man. You know, it sounds kind of like that. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I know. I'm
which-
sorry.
no,
I tried to
I'm
ask it in
joking
a
with
better
you.
way, but
No,
Maybe,
it's
maybe,
great.
maybe a
I'm
year.
joking.
How about that?
Yeah, sure. In a year. Well, I'd like to continue working on my technical knowledge. Like, as boring as that is, like I'm working with people with, like, on average, they all have like a decade of experience, sometimes more. And so the imposter syndrome is real. And as I'm getting promoted to a position that typically, like, people have that much experience in the field and I don't, I feel really motivated to increase my networking knowledge. I really want to get, like, I'm grinding right now to get through the CCNP so that I can have that as, like, proof that I know what the hell I'm doing and that, you know, I have some knowledge in the area. But I really, truly want to get all of that stuff down pat eventually, so that I can be better at my job, you know? And, you know, I'd like to eventually move into, like, a senior network engineer leadership position if possible. And, you know, I really have a passion for, at work, I really like training people. I've already been training a number of people, and I like to train our new people and create documentation for them. I create videos and stuff like that. And so I would like to keep doing things like that. And I think a leadership position eventually where I can, you know, do that as, you know, full-time or mostly of what I do would be really great to teach concepts to new network engineers and new employees and such. But that's just sort of what I'm thinking right now. As soon as I feel more comfortable in my technical knowledge, I'll feel better about, like, looking at my near future kind of projection, you know?
I'm sticking with my prediction of future CBT Nuggets instructor, Tracket Pacer.
Yeah.
Do they have any women instructors at CBT Nuggets? Does anyone know? I was wondering about that the other day.
I know that they have female instructors, but I don't think that they have any that are in the network engineering kind of
Okay.
vertical for them. I know that
Okay.
they have. I think there's a female instructor that does, I think, business apps. Like I think she has stuff on like Microsoft
Okay.
Office and a few other things. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah, they
don't
need
think
some
having
female
that
network
edge-
engineers.
Someone needs to
yeah.
fix that, and I have a
Yeah.
proposal.
This is
Well, we'll
long
see.
as they allow cursing. Because if they take that away,
Yeah, it's
No,
the course.
I
It's the
can
course
censor
where you got to
myself.
check the box to say you agree. You accept the
hey,
terms and
how about
conditions.
this? How about we'll meet in the middle? You can still cuss, but they'll just bleep it because that
There
might
you
make it
go.
even funnier.
That'd make it even funnier.
sometimes that does make it funnier. Yeah, it'll just be a lot of bleeping for me.
I was about to say
You will
you'd
never
start off an
forget
episode
that
and
DMVPN has dynamic tunnels with that. Like you just won't.
yeah,
These
no.
bitches
These
is
bitches be
dynamic. Yeah.
That should be
I'm
a
so
sticker.
glad you guys are tickled by that.
Yeah.
Hey, do whatever you want. These shit posts, they're out there. They're public domain. Anyone can use them. I don't even care. It's fine.
What should we have asked you? What did we miss? What do you want to say? We have
Oh,
a
man.
platform here. I mean, did we forget anything? Is there any kind of...
If I can get on my soapbox really briefly, if you don't mind.
please.
I
We
would
need more
prefer-
women in network
Andy,
engineering.
Get off your soapbox
Yeah.
and let her have it, okay?
Well,
there's room.
we'll
Go
switch.
ahead. I'm all...
Yeah, we need more women in network engineering. I know we have quite a few, but we don't have enough,
agree.
and that bothers me. I have a number of theories on how to do that, but ultimately, like, part of it comes down to like the men who are in network engineering. Please encourage the women that you know and in network engineering, if you do know any, to keep encouraging them to keep at it, because I know that a lot of when you're getting into this stuff in like college, or like you're taking classes in general at whatever point in life, like if you're in a position where you're the only woman in a sea full of men, it can get really intimidating. And if even a few of them are not like that great to you, like not, are kind of shitty to you or whatever, it can really discourage continuing along that path. And that goes for not just network engineering, but literally pretty much anything. But I've heard it's a problem in engineering classes. And just if you have a woman in your life who is in a tech related field or anything, just make sure you're encouraging her, and not, if you work with someone who's a woman in your field, like, don't speak over her in meetings, please. Like, encourage your daughters to build their own PCs. I think I have gotten on a soapbox about that before. Introduce these concepts just not just to little boys, but to little girls too, and encourage that in them. We need this encouragement in all stages of life, whether you're a child, teenager, adult. And a lot of that comes from like the men in our lives who are already in this field that's male dominated. So I know I probably don't have to tell you all on the podcast about this. I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I just want to get that out there. It's really important to have encouragement.
To hear
men.
it from you, I think, means more than to hear it from one of us, right? And and you're walking the walk that's been your experience, right, in your life. I mean, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I want her to be able to do anything she wants, and I get pretty fired up, thinking about what you're saying, right? That she may go into the work world someday and be made to feel less than or not part. Just it's total horseshit, and I'd like to think that the ship's starting to turn, right? I mean, I would hope so, right? I haven't had your experience, so I can't say that it is, but the fact that there's more, women getting into the field, and it's tough to change culture, right? I mean, little boys are raised to like be loud mouths and to think they know it all and to take charge. I mean, that's how we're raised, right? Like, and it can be a problem later on. Like, don't ever. I was watching something the other day. The SDN daughter, I think her name is Corey, and she did this interview with these other 2 women in tech, and it was like a 20-minute interview of just nothing but stories about everything you're talking about. Like, if they go to a conference and they're all there, the men don't even signify that they're there. And then when the woman who's strong enough to say, "Yo, dude, I'm here," he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were such and such's wife." Like, just, but there's so many of those stories that, well, right. But there's just so much of it. Like, you're telling us, right, that there's so much of it, and you weren't taught to build a PC. So it's, at the very least, we need to hear it, right? If there isn't the awareness, if you're not out there screaming this from the top of the mountains, it's never going to change. And I was going to ask you how, and you said, you had a lot of ideas, and
Well, there's unfortunately, like, a lot of it is societal, and that's not an easy overnight fix. Like you touched on a little bit of that, but like parents, teach your sons not to like hit on their female coworkers would be nice. Like I've had negative experiences just in like I just exist, and like if you exist as a woman in a space with mostly men, there's just going to be problems most of the time. There's going to be at least one person always. So like, teaching just basic emotional like intelligence and empathy goes actually a long way, I think. But I don't want to teach parents how to parent their children. It's just that I can tell that sometimes you go into a space as a woman, and the men there are not used to having a woman in that space, and so it's a weird adjustment. And I think some people need to get used to that adjustment is all it is. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but unfortunately for some people, it can be that. And that's my soapbox. Thank you for listening.
I would say it does start at the home, and it is complicated, but I'm hoping that at the very least by talking about it, right? I mean, I teach my son to hold the door, and to, like if you're teaching your son to be a gentleman when he's a kid, you hope that when he grows up, he's not that schmuck in the office, right? And that's hopefully my part that I can do. And then a reminder from you is like, build a PC with my daughter, like rock on. That's going to be awesome. You know what I mean?
And she may not be like an engineer or anything when she grows up, but at least like you've exposed her to that stuff, right? Like that's really all.
It's part of her experience, right? She's had an experience with it, and it might click later, it might not, but to keep it from her isn't going to help her, right? Discover that. So
yeah.
Well, awesome. Can I get back on the soapbox now, Dan? Is it my turn? Can I bitch about?
I don't know.
Can I yell about something?
It's never been that nice.
You went off the episode up, Andy. I don't know.
And we got to wrap up, guys. So.
Andy wants to talk again. We got to shut it down.
No, I'm just, thank you for coming on here. You've just been, you've been a pleasure just in the community, right? I mean, not just here tonight, but like I really enjoy you on social media. The streams have been phenomenal. I love your attitude, your spunk, your take no shit attitude. And thanks for coming on here and telling your story. It's really been, helpful. Some of the messages I got from you guys, like stuff you said, like it's never too late. You know what I mean? Get honest with yourself if you have to. I mean, these are things that resonated with me, right? I started over in my mid 30s and tried to figure stuff out. And, it's not too late. We get a lot of people in the Discord, even and on Twitter, like, hey, I'm 40 something. Is it too late to start? Like, no, it's never too late. You don't have to be a computer science major and get that first gig at 22. Like, it's not. And to me, like, I came up thinking, I failed out of computer science. I've told this before, but like I couldn't hack C++. Calculus destroyed me. And they were the first two classes you had to take in your first semester in computer science.
Calculus, man.
Right. Oh. So I got weeded out, right? I'm like, okay, I don't belong. I can't do that. I'm not cut out for tech, like you said. Fast forward 15 years later, and I found a different route in there. But, many paths to the same place. And, it's just, I really like your story, and it's never too late. And, I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's always been what I've tried to tell people. And I don't know. I've really enjoyed you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. And it's been an honor. I was so stoked to be asked to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an honor having you. I am so honored to get a chance to share your story, and I absolutely can tell you that it will be influential to anybody that listens to this. I mean, Andy's already kind of recapped it, so I don't need to go say it again, but just what an amazing story, and genuinely thank you so much for joining us tonight. She is Lexie. She is at Tracket Pacer. Where else can people find you?
So Twitter's my main place. I'm also, if you want to follow me on Reddit, it's the same username, Tracket Pacer. That's where I'm primarily streaming at the moment. I do have a Twitch account and plan to start streaming on Twitch, so you can actually read what I've got up diagram wise and stuff. So if you want to follow me on Twitch, that's not quite up yet, but it will be, and I exist in that space. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to sub to that.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. What is
this
words?
Twitch? My last minute word is, what is this Twitch? What is this Twitch thing?
Twitch.
What is this Twitch thing from Andy?
What
Shocker.
is this? What is this Twitch thing? Hold on, let me sip my prune juice. Hold on. What is this Twitch
is
thing?
a streaming service that's aimed at people that play computer video games.
Streaming? Can I get that on my radio?
Yeah.
No, Andy.
Oh, Andy.
You can't.
Okay.
You can get it on your phone.
Oh man.
My ring a dingy on the kitchen wall, the yellow thing.
Yeah, that one. Oh my God, you're ring a dingy.
My ring a dingy. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
Golly.
It's been great.
All
Lexie.
right.
It really, yeah.
All right,
great.
AJ, wrap
so
it
much,
up.
guys.
Wrap it up, AJ. We've
See, I
reached
knew
it.
he'd
Calling the
take
phone
away- he had to
ringy
take away
dingy.
Andy's soapbox. I knew he was going to screw it up.
Oh, God.
All right, Lexie, thank you so much for joining us this week, as well as everybody in the chat. Thank you so much to our Patreons. If you're interested in being a Patreon and joining us here, you can go to patreon.com/Art of Network Engineering, or no, Art of Net Eng. My gosh. Patreon.com/Art of Net Eng. Lexie, thank you again so much for joining us. Have a good night, everyone. We will see you next week.
Good night,
Thank you so much.
shitbirds.
Hey everyone, this is AJ. If you like what you heard today, then make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcatcher. Smash that bell icon to get notified of all of our future episodes. Also, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Art of Net Eng. That's Art of NETENG. You can also find us on the web at artofnetworkengineering.com, where we post all of our show notes. You can read blog articles from the co-hosts and guests, and also a lot more news and info from the networking world. Thanks for listening.